Hello, Redhead Whiskey here, and today I have a huge pleasure to interview Angela D'Orozio. Am I pronouncing this right?
Nearly. Dorazio.
D'Orazio. No, oh my
Yes.
goodness, it feels
Yes.
much more. I'll definitely go for that. And I would say, I can link you to one distillery, but I actually don't want to do that because you've been involved with so many projects and so many things, and you are one of the most fascinating female figures in the world of whiskey. So it's our honor to have you here. So the first question I always ask anyone is, why? Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you go into the whiskey world? What is it? What is it in there?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to meet you and to meet the people on your platform.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. So why did I go into whiskey? As so many things in my life, I would say it was a banana shell kind of way in. I I did not know I was going to work with alcohol or with spirits when I was younger, but as my path led me on to doing sommelier training, and I learned so much about good quality food and drinks. I then happened to come into whiskey. Let's put it like that.
So tell us a little bit about your path and how did you get started? What did you do? Um,
Well, as I said, I did the sommelier training. I got friends who worked with importing to Sweden, and they asked me if I wanted to come to one of the first fairs in Stockholm.
mhm.
And then I worked there, and there I met some people importing whiskey, other people, and they said, "Oh, so cool with a lady who knows about whiskey." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I know a lot about whiskey," which I didn't. But I thought, how hard can it be? So I said, I know a lot about it and I love it. And, and they said, do you want to come and do some promotion for us? So I did. And that went well. And then they asked me, do you want to become one of these first new persons working like promoting our stuff? It's called brand ambassadors. There's a new thing. There are no ones like that yet, but you will be one of the first ones. And that was Glenmorangie, and that was in Sweden, and 92. And then I got training by them. And when I was in Scotland and I got the training, the 16 Men of Tain and Scotland and the magic over there, I just realized what a beautiful, what a magic the products and the industry had. So I just fell in love, and from there it went. And I guess I was a bit lucky as well, because I was one of the first females, working with spirits, like in public, doing tastings and going around Sweden. So I got a lot of coverage because of that. And then one thing led to another, I would say. Not to talk about the whole way, but one thing led to another. And then at a certain point, I met the Mackmyra people.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Mackmyra. I think it's because that's a very the name is associated with you.
Yeah. So the Mackmyra story linked with me is it's somewhat of a love story until nearly the end, where we fell apart. But I loved working for Mackmyra, and I worked with the founders, especially with Magnus, who still is my partner in crime in many ways. Magnus was the CEO of Mackmyra, and it was so much fun, and it was a lot of freedom to create. I would say freedom to create what was coming for Mackmyra, which was the new world whiskey taking place in the world, and giving out expressions that were untraditional, with Swedish finishes, Swedish wine, berry wines, and Swedish different weird things that we could use, which is not the tradition, because the Scottish whiskey tradition does not allow that. They do allow a little bit more now. I think Calvados has been allowed since a couple of years to finish whiskey casks with, for example. But so it was many fun years, and it's tough for a Swedish whiskey producer to make spirit, with, for example, raw material in Sweden is costly.
Right.
Wages in Sweden are costly, and so on. So I think Mackmyra made a pretty good thing to survive for so many years that they did. They did some, some bad decisions, but what would they know before? They just went on. And so I had some very many good years. I met so much wonderful people. I did so many fun collaborations, and I also tell that in my presentation, that collaborations for me is something that I cherish. One of the things the most. I love the collaborations that I've done with in Calvados, for example, with Dran. So bought casks from him, and we used his casks and made a wonderful Mackmyra on his Dran casks, for example, and Amarone casks.
Superb.
And so on. So I think it has been, and the tea finish was also an amazing story. So I'm super grateful for having done all those collaborations, and those experiences are close to my heart still.
I have not heard about a tea finish.
Oh, you haven't? It's a finish that came out of my love for Japan and my love for tea. And I went to Japan and I met a lot of nice people, and I tried some amazing vintage green teas in Japan. And what struck me the most was the resemblance of aromatic complexity between a good whiskey and a good tea. So I got the idea of doing a tea finish. So I got together with Yoko Ono, which is a tea family descendant who lives in Stockholm. And I bought some great teas from her. I did some macerations with the tea, which
that's a very strong name to have as a brand, Yoko Ono.
Yes. Young people doesn't know who it is. So if there are young people in the audience, when I tell this story, they go like, okay, go on with the story. But Yoko Ono, but it's not the same Yoko Ono. This is a younger.
I would immediately buy it as a,
Yes. So I did these experiments on the small casks, which were my experiment vessels.
So the cask would have tea in it for a while to absorb the flavors? And
yes.
The seasoning with tea?
The maceration of tea. So it was like a tea liqueur, but no sugars. So made up a maceration liquid.
Angela, what is how do you start from a brand ambassador and training and moving on to blender, and I think you also have the whiskey supervisor. So how do all of these roles develop?
I'd say naturally. I think that the alchemist in me goes along. So that's the spirit, I would say. The knowledge of blending that came. I mean, when I got to work with Mackmyra people in the beginning, it was the first year it was about tastings, but then I was the only person in the company who knew a lot about sensory and how sensory worked. So then they asked me if I wanted to start, developing their products when they were so young. So I did that, and then the first years my title was head of development, whiskey development, and then after, I don't know, 10 years or something, I got promoted to become a master blender, because you're not just a master blender from day one. At least that is not the tradition. So I would say, back to your question, alchemy and the love of blending, blending taste, and I love to cook. I always love to cook, and I would say if I make a recipe, if someone gives me a recipe, I cannot do that recipe without changing something. That's like in my brain. So you're the same? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, that's the answer. The curiosity and love for the experience of what comes out of it.
How does the curiosity and the love of changing elements works with the blending that has to be so consistent? And it's
Well, yeah, that's a good question. You have to be scientific as well. So if you are creating something, you have to be very specific on writing down the changes. So if you are doing a recipe and you are adding 2 grams of something, you have to write it down, because otherwise you can never recreate it. So I think one of the good things I had was again, Mange, my former boss, and he supported me in creating, the structure around my work. So the Excel documents, from the small samples up to the bigger, volumes. So you need to be scientific about that, and you need to have a method, and you have to have, you have to check the feedback, what so the knowledge goes on, and you gather your knowledge, and you have these things written down.
As whiskey in Sweden, it's a major niche, and a niche is great with creating a brand, but it's also very challenging to push it, because it's not the natural environment, or the natural, it's not Scotland or
Right.
so. What are the 2 sides that you've experimented that you've experienced, the challenges as well as the benefits of being in a niche?
Right. I think it all comes down to how much you believe in what you do, and if you also get support in what you do. And I think the Mackmyra, the original Mackmyra of those times, had that kind of soil. So I had support in developing my weirdness in terms of the projects, and I think I've always had a good sense of what I like. I'm necessarily not always very clear on where I want to go. That's another thing, but I always know what I like. So with a method of exclusion, it's like, no, not that, no, not that, no, not that, and I like this. I've always had a good sense of I'm doing the right thing, and I think that helps when you're in unfamiliar territory. And I think it's also the fact that Scottish whiskey has always been so traditional and so protected from new influences, has helped the New World whiskey to take place. So I think the New World whiskey, like Mackmyra, has come on strong because we've been, allowed to develop, to bring whiskey into new places, and not just keeping it in the, dusty old box where. And I love Scotch whiskey, but sometimes it is dusty the way it is presented and the way it is, because it's like it has to be in a certain way.
Yeah, it's true. It's a way of a privilege to experiment and explore. And Mackmyra did a lot of, and I know that you yourself, as you've mentioned, like and enjoy experimentation and creativity and innovation. And you've done so many projects. What is your favorite, most memorable, fun project that you worked on?
There are many, but I would say the AI whiskey and the green tea, which were oddly enough at the end. But I guess that is sort of logical as well. But the green tea project was so much fun, and people were so skeptic about it. I mean, the traditional people were skeptic about it. The other people didn't understand anything, so they didn't get the concept until they tried it, and then they got curious and wanted to know more. So there was a lot of criticism coming our way because of if you would have done whiskey in Scotland, you would never have done this. Kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess the green tea one was so much fun and great to do. And when I left Mackmyra in the end of 21, I was sad because of one thing, that my tea casks were lying there and I was leaving them, and I know the responsible blender made some single cask bottlings out of them some years later and got gold out of them in competition. So they were my babies, and I would have loved to have followed them, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the AI project.
So the AI project was a project that was developed together with, in the corridors of one of the offices that we had in Stockholm. So we had a Stockholm office, and then we had, the distillery.
As projects always do. They always start in next to the water fountain or the.
They start somewhere like unexpectedly. So we had some IT guys who were having lunch together with the IT guys at the Microsoft IT guys at the same office space, and they were the AI software was just being developed, and they talked about it, and they said, wow, wouldn't it be cool and to do an AI whiskey, and our guy said, well, that's not, we don't think Angela would agree to that. That's like so far out and so on. But, they came to talk to me about it, and I thought, like, what is unconventional has always brought me good. So, and just because this is not what a master blender should do, that's where I want to go. So,
yes, 100%.
Yeah. So we had meeting together with the AI engineers, which was another company who kind of developed AI products in the consumer business.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got along, and then we decided, okay, let's work. So I got to work, and I created excuse me. A complete list of all our recipes that we had up to date to them with all the parameters, or not all, but most of the parameters that every whiskey was involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took all these parameters and they put them into an AI program. Like they created the Mackmyra AI whiskey software. And then, excuse me, and then I got a lot of recipes that were created by the AI machine. And I looked at them and then I discarded them and put in new parameters, you could say. So you have to give loads of parameters to create a product that is better than the ones that are already existing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be aware of which parameters you have. So in our case, we had all the different cask sizes, like the 30-liter cask that we use for the private person and for experimenting, the quarter casks that are the finishing casks for Mackmyra, the bourbon cask, which is the basic fleet, and then the odd port cask, sherry cask, Madeira cask, etc. So you have that's a parameter. Another parameter is new cask, first fill, second fill. Right. Well, let's continue.
Yes.
So all the parameters are being put into it, and then you decide which parameters you are going to, to heighten. So you put on a wish list. Parameter one is, it has won so many golds. It has got good reviews by consumers. It has to be, et cetera. So then you give out the parameters, and then you get like hundreds of recipes back that the AI brain spits out to you.
That's good.
Yeah, and then you go back and forth. So you take out more, you put in more restrictions. Okay, so for example, the AI brain saw that many of the bottlings that had won gold in the competitions were smoky bottlings. Therefore, I would put in a lot of smoke into everything. And I realized, no, we're not going to do a smoky whiskey here, because the first bottling has to be liked by everyone. Yeah. And not everyone likes smoke. So that was a parameter that was changed during the course of the events. So that's how it went. And then I distilled out 5 of these recipes that I thought had enough casks still here, whiskey, which is good, interesting recipes. And then I took great casks and I blended them, and I said, I presented it to the Mackmyra board, and I said, here are the 5 AI recipes I have taken out. And I would suggest we do this one. And then we came out with one recipe, and people loved it, and it got gold in competitions and so on, and got very good reviews. And we did, I think we did 5 batches of that one, I think. And then I stopped working for Mackmyra, but I know they took recipe number 2 and forwarded it. But I don't think that had the greatness of the intention of it from the beginning. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun, and it was great doing that. And afterwards, we went on a world tour, and people could taste this whiskey, and I had the engineer, the AI engineer, with me. So we had a he talked for a while, and then I talked for a while, and then people tasted the whiskey, which was fun. And it has been after a lot of interesting things has come to me in the same field, because I've been doing keynote speeches about this AI whiskey to to many people and companies by now, even though AI is in a completely new place now. It's like,
Yeah, still, it's still an impressive and original and a great way to use data.
yeah.
So I know it's a tricky question, but what's your favorite whiskey today, or or in the right now?
Um, I would say, yeah, as you know, it's a tricky question. If if I can be, dividing it into the best whiskey I tried the last week, or the best whiskey from Sweden, or the best Scotch smoky whiskey, then I would be more happy than just say overall, because that doesn't work like that. Because if it's like saying which is your favorite food, and pretend that you only eat that.
Yeah.
Um,
So what would you, if I would serve you something right now or in the next 3 hours, what would you like?
as a whiskey, I think I would take a light Irish whiskey right now, like a beautiful whiskey from Ireland. Oh, Teeling, for example. I appreciate their bottlings.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah. I love it.
but there are so many beautiful expressions today everywhere. So it's like, it is not like it used to be, like with so many bad expressions. I think you really have to know your game to come somewhere today. Um, for example, when I do competitions, I'm part of the team at doing all the whiskeys at the International Spirit Challenge every year, only with master blenders in the panel, and we taste like 600 whiskeys or something in a week every spring in Edinburgh. And you can see there on those tastings that the stuff you taste is nowadays, compared to like 10 years ago, is much better. Of course, the odd, bottling that comes from someone who doesn't have a distillery but is doing their independent bottling, and that's the only thing they have, and that's what they're putting through. But I'd say there's a lot of great whiskeys out there today. So, and American whiskeys, being in the US, doing the workshop together with Nancy Fraley, the ADI workshop that I do in December with her, tasting a lot of great American whiskeys every year now. It's you realize, there's amazing bourbons and rye whiskeys and corn whiskeys and single malts and the days where bourbon whiskey was only about a lot of wood, they're kind of over. So I really see the greatness that is out there. So it's like, it's so difficult to say which is the favorite. I think one of the great whiskeys that I have enjoyed more times from the US is the Nantucket whiskey, the 888 distillery.
Yes.
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 So their whiskey, their single malt whiskey, I adore. It's so,
Wow. That's so
yes,
great to hear.
yes,
Beautiful.
for example.
Angela, thank you so much. It's fascinating and inspiring to talk to you. If you are ever in the East Coast, I would love to host you and to take you to a few distilleries around here as well.
Okay.
If you haven't
I
been.
would love that. I would love
Yeah,
that.
approve it and I'll put it on. So thank you so much. It's been
All
a
right.
pleasure.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Have a great day. I'll
Yeah.
stop the recording. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I stopped the recording. Being a woman that